Yeah.
Digital.
Intro music. Woo. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AAS YouTube channel. And this one is going down the AAS Editors and Publishing series. And I'm super happy to have Susanna Kohler with us today. Susanna, as you may know, is the editor of AAS NOVA. And if you haven't heard yet, she has been recently promoted, I think is the right word, to Communications Manager and Press Officer of the AAS. So hi, Susanna.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's toasty in Pasadena today.
Toasty in Pasadena. How toasty is toasty?
Today, I think it's going to be mid-90s. Tomorrow, over 100. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. It is the usual very toastiness in Phoenix. We will hit 116 or about 43, 44 C, for those who are more familiar with that. And it will be even a little hotter tomorrow. So
oh, you win. Okay.
What's that? Well, it's Phoenix. I think Death Valley, you know, may have a little bit over it, but otherwise it's yeah, we're regularly up in the hot spots. But it sounds like the whole, you know, American South and West is going to bake a little bit over the next couple of days. And
I think so. Yes.
Sounds pretty cool. That's some pretty awesome paintings over your shoulders. Did you paint those?
I did not. I have a very talented grandmother who painted those.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm fortunate to be in a family of a lot of talented artists.
Yeah. You are one yourself in just a different venue.
With words.
With words. There
yep.
we go. So speaking of and those words, and I think you apply those words to astronomy a little bit. So what kind of astronomy do you like? What do you like to do in astronomy?
Oh, that's a tough question to ask somebody who deals with so much astronomy.
I know. So
I like it all, right? I can't play favorites. I'm not allowed to play favorites.
Okay, let me go back.
So I
what did you do your PhD thesis in?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for black holes, in particular the supermassive black holes at the centers of galaxies, because my PhD work was on active galactic nuclei and the jets that are emitted from their centers. And so in particular, I was looking at, you know, we see these jets that are emitted from AGN that are very tightly beamed rather than spraying out in all directions. And the question is, why are they beamed like that? What collimates them? Is it the pressure of the surrounding medium? Is it magnetic fields? Is it some of both? And what kind of structure do they take on the inside as a result of this? So that was the work that I did for my PhD. I still think that's pretty darn cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're doing that as a PhD. When did you, or were you always sort of into words? When were you doing science writing while you were doing your PhD, or?
I was, yeah. So I've always been really into writing and really into science communication in general. When I started my PhD, I wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do long term. And maybe around my second year, I started getting into a variety of outreach things. I gave lectures at the local planetarium. I did star tours. I worked in elementary school classrooms, you know, the gamut, and really enjoyed that. But the writing was the part that I enjoyed the most. And so I joined right after it started a group called Astrobytes. So Astrobytes was founded, I believe, in 2011. And this was a group of graduate students who came together and they said, you know, when you first start out research, you go to your advisor and you say, hey, I want to work with you. And they say, great, here's the stack of papers, read all of these, and then get back to me and we'll get to work. And that's rough, right? Nobody ever teaches you how to read scientific papers. And so this group of grad students at Harvard got together and they said, why don't we make it easier for people who are just starting out in the field to read scientific papers? Why don't we produce some summaries of recent research that's been published in the astrophysical literature? We'll write them at the level of undergraduate majors, provide the context, the kind of bigger picture. Why does this matter? What's so cool about this? But also provide like the figures from the paper and you know, actually get people introduced to the idea of this is how you read a paper in the process.
Cool.
So that was how Astrobytes started. It's now, I guess, a decade later.
Right.
and it's still going strong. We have a team of authors all around the world. They swap out every year.
Sure.
It's entirely run by graduate students. And we've got an archive of thousands of posts about astronomy research that's come out in that time.
How many people are currently in Astrobytes?
So we keep the authorship at about 30 people at a time.
Yeah.
In order to have each person writing once a month, basically, is the idea. And then they peer edit, so they edit each other's work once a month as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. So every year, graduate students are invited to apply to be Astrobytes authors. And every year we get far more applications than unfortunately we can take, but it's fantastic to see this ever-growing pool of really enthusiastic and incredible science communicators.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I started writing with Astrobytes early on in grad school and really loved that. And I just kind of continued down that vein and got really lucky that when I graduated, the AAS was looking for someone to do something similar to Astrobytes for them.
Okay.
And I applied for that job, and here I am as editor of AAS NOVA, which is basically the version of Astrobytes for AAS journals. So it's the place where we publish summaries of recent work that have been published in AAS journals and bring a little bit of publicity to our authors.
It's always a good thing. So when did you become editor of AAS NOVA? When was that?
I think I started 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And AAS NOVA launched that year at the August IAU meeting in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that was when the website first came up, and it's been going since.
Very cool. So how many total AAS NOVA articles have you done so far?
Ooh, good question. I think
10, 100, 1,000?
Today's was, hang on, I can check this. Today's was number 1,175 of the highlights.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And you still feature Astrobyte articles in AAS NOVA.
Yes, we do. Yeah, once a week typically, sometimes a little more often. We put AAS NOVA articles, we cross-post them. Astrobytes articles cross-posted on AAS NOVA. In particular, the ones that are covering articles that have been published in the AAS journals. So that's a way of kind of sharing the readership of those, because the Astrobytes authors are doing really great stuff over there. And it's a slightly different format, and it's nice to kind of mix it up.
Speaking of mixing it up, as editor of AAS NOVA, how are articles chosen? And then, maybe there's a large pool and you winnow those down to, ones that are of more interest or something. So I'm just curious a little bit about the editorial process on how articles are chosen and written up. Yeah,
that's a great question. So when I started out, I was choosing all of the articles myself. AAS journals have 4,000 or 5,000 articles a year published. Is that correct?
That's about right.
Yep. So that's a lot to choose from.
Cool.
It's a little bit of an overwhelming quantity to choose from. So what we've transitioned to doing since then is we take advantage of our excellent scientific and lead editors.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Who have expertise in these.
That knocks me out of the game.
Oh, whoops. Yeah. Well, no. So our scientific editors have expertise in these different corridors and in the different subfields, and so they know when they're looking at a submitted article whether this is something that's an important impact in that subfield, really going to kind of advance the field. They know if it's something that might be of broader interest. Big result, something that's just unique or exciting in some way. And so the editors send me recommendations of articles that they think are especially well suited to be highlighted on AAS NOVA. And then I keep a pool of those recommendations. And after I receive the recommendations, I then have to wait for the articles to be published, because usually I get the recommendations earlier on in the pipeline. So I kind of keep that spreadsheet going and wait for them to go up, and then try to get to as many of them as I can. Right now, I am getting definitely more recommendations than I can highlight, which is a shame because they're all amazing.
They're all great, man.
But yeah, doing my best to keep up.
Very cool. Very cool. And so are those of that pool, are those then ones you farm out to Astrobytes, or do they just completely pick their own articles?
They completely pick their own articles. So the Astrobytes has complete editorial independence. There's no oversight from AAS on that. Yeah.
Very cool. So roughly on average, how many AAS NOVA articles do you have juggling in the air at any given average week, let's say? Because right, some are coming out, some you're looking at, some you're actively writing. So just, you know, are one article a week, 100 a week? Just
yeah, so we do, I've got 3 main AAS NOVA like highlights coming out a week, plus 1 Astrobytes post.
Okay, so 4 a week.
So those are like the full highlights. And then there's also a column where I do Journals Digest posts, which is kind of like all the ones that I can't get to in a highlight. I'll do a single sentence summary, have one of those going up each day just to bring attention to a few more works. And then in addition to the ones that actually get published, you're right that there are definitely some that are juggled in the meantime. Sometimes there are big results that I know about in the pipeline long in advance. And then I have to prepare something in advance for that and then sit on it and wait for the point when that gets made public. So I know a few secrets right now that I can't share. Yes. Yeah, so I mean, I'm
usually for a very enticing video to promise secrets. I mean,
right? I know.
Oh, also just writing too, right? I mean, it's one of the big 7, you know, headliners that you write, secrets of, you know, X, Y, Z, whatever it may be, because everybody wants to know secrets.
That's right. Make sure you headline this video appropriately.
Secrets of Susanna. There we go.
Yep.
Very cool. Let's see. So where was I going to go with that? So we get, you know, on the order of about 7. Oh, I know what I was going to ask. Do you let authors know when their articles are highlighted in AAS, and do you ever get thank yous or anything like that?
Yeah, so I notify authors after they've been published.
Cool.
When I first started out, I was trying to coordinate with authors in advance of publishing the articles. I would run drafts through them and all of that. And that worked well, but it was kind of a lot of extra steps, and there were typically not any science changes that the authors wanted to make. They just wanted to, for instance, add a lot of content. And of course, I'm limited in the amount of content I can include. I've got 500 words at most to talk about this, and I need to have the context and the background in there too. So it's really hard to get everything in there. And I do my best to kind of have the meat of the article in addition to the context and the background. So after doing that for a bit, I felt pretty confident that, you know, the input that I was receiving from authors wasn't necessarily something I could incorporate anyway. So it was probably better just to notify them afterwards, right, which is what I've been doing since. And I have had no complaints so far, which is great. And yeah, when I do notify them, I very frequently get thank yous, and it's really rewarding. It's nice to be doing a job where like I'm getting constant positive interactions with people, because nobody's like, man, I'm so mad that you highlighted my work. Gosh,
you did it all wrong.
Yeah, right. So no, it's great to see that people are excited about getting that extra publicity, and yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you've had this journey from PhD to Astrobytes in 2011 to starting AAS NOVA 2015, 2016 or so. And that journey continues as most recently you have become, this is kind of a mouthful, the communications manager, and the one I like the most, press officer of AAS. So congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. Yeah.
And honestly, what does that mean?
That's a great question. We're still trying to figure that out. The ultimate problem here is that Rick Feinberg, who has been the press officer of the AAS for quite some time now, yep, does a lot of stuff. And he's retiring now in September. Ooh, okay. And so somebody needs to take over for him. And I think it's still unclear what all the things are that he does. But the goal will be for me to do those things.
Okay.
So I don't know yet entirely what all of this will entail. I will still be the editor of AAS NOVA, and I'll kind of be overseeing the general process, but we're hiring a new person to take on a large bulk of the AAS NOVA work. This is the communication specialist position. We are in the hiring process right now, so I'm really excited about that.
There you go, people. Apply.
Yep, it's still open. Apply before the end of the month. Yes, so we're really excited about that. And then I'll be taking on Rick's press duties for sure, which at this point, the biggest component of that is very much the press conferences at AAS meetings.
Right.
So putting those together, organizing those, selecting abstracts for those from the, hundreds or thousands of abstracts that are submitted for the meetings.
Right.
And then running the conferences, which is really exciting. Another component of press officer is dealing with just the day-to-day inquiries from the press that come in. If somebody has a question about, oh, I see that there's this annular solar eclipse coming up, we need somebody to comment on that. They might reach out to the press officer of the American Astronomical Society and say either, do you have a comment, or can you refer me to a scientist who might be able to comment on this?
Okay.
And that's especially a thing, like if there's a study that comes out, journalists usually need to have an external source comment on the study as well, in order to present this kind of, it's not promotional, right? It's like an unbiased view. So you need an external commentator as well. And so if they don't know somebody specifically in the field of, I don't know, super Earths or something like that, then they might reach out to me and ask for a recommendation of someone they can speak to get a comment. So here's just a note for the future. If you are someone who works in astronomy and wants to be contacted by the press, tell me, because I'm always looking for sources now going forward.
Absolutely. That means you have quite the Rolodex to use it.
I might need to actually.
I might don't know. A Rolodex is what you used to keep, write people's names on it, and it would roll around, and you flip through these cards. But it,
you don't have one you can hold up as an example?
No, I do not.
Wow. Yep.
But people know what that means. So yeah, you must be creating quite the Rolodex between the press people. And you can also push the other way, I would imagine too, right? If, encourage stories from various press organizations to do a story on this side or the other. Yeah,
that's the hope.
Cool. That is awesome. Well, I wish you luck in that position. I hope it goes super well. I hope you have as long and successful career as Rick had in that. So
I hope so too. Thank you.
Awesome. Susanna, I want to thank you so much for spending a little bit of time and talking about yourself, talking about AAS NOVA, and talking about the press officer position of the AAS.
Certainly. This was fun. Thanks so much, Frank.
All righty. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.